What's up, YouTube? It is Megan and I'm back with another video. I thank you guys so much for returning. For everyone that is new to my channel, I thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope that you guys are here to stay. So go ahead and subscribe, press that notification button, and if you have any questions or topics that you would like for me to discuss, just leave it down in the comments. So today's topic, I'm going to be talking about how Satan wants you to feel isolated in times that you're going through hardships, heartbreak, whether you're grieving, whether you are going through substance abuse, anxiety, depression, any type of mental battles. He wants you to feel alone. He wants you to feel like you are the only one going through these things, so that way you don't reach out, you don't ask for help, you don't talk to anyone about what you're going through because you feel like nobody will understand you. So what's the point? He wants you to be secluded so that way he can play tricks with you and play with your mind. And if he can get your mind, if he can get in here, he can get you in any type of way that he wants you. He can continue to drag you down into these deep, dark places. And sometimes it's really, really hard to get out of those places once you get there. Whether it's a bad relationship, a toxic relationship that you know you shouldn't be in, it's always best to talk to someone and to maybe express those emotions and express the way that you're feeling, because you never know what anyone else is going through. And if you can talk to someone and you could feel like they understand what you're going through and they can give you sound advice and maybe really help you in that situation, that can really lighten your load and really just take that load off and really show you like there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Because you just never know what anyone else is going through and how you can actually help someone in certain ways, whether it be you just being relatable and you just being able to give great advice because you've been there and you've done that, so you know how it feels. Like, for instance, with me, when I was in a really, really toxic relationship, and I would like call and I would talk to, whether it be like a really good friend, like a cousin, or even like my mom or an aunt or whoever it may have been, like I would feel in those moments, I would feel like I was literally alone. Like I felt like nobody understood me and nobody could relate to what I was going through, and I felt kind of embarrassed in a way because it just felt like nobody knew what I was going through. It's like, and then I also felt like if I would tell them certain things and they would get kind of like a glimpse of what I was really, really going through, they would be like, why are you still there? Like, this relationship is toxic for you, it's unhealthy. Why are you still with this person? And it's so much easier said than done when you're in a toxic relationship, and especially when you have kids and you have assets and you guys live together. You have all of these things that are attached, and it's not just the fact that you're in a relationship, you have attachments. So it's easier said than done to just be like, oh, well, you should leave him. Like, yeah, that's easy for you to say, but I'm actually in it. So I can't just up and leave, really, And it's more so of a trauma bond as well. Like, you're just used to going through this toxicity that you've grown like immune to it in a way. And it's like you're used to it. It's like you kind of, in a way, you like it because that's all that you know. And you feel like you can't get better. You feel like, if you do leave this person, that you won't be able to find anyone that can really truly love you the way that you deserve to be loved, which is not true. And that is another trick of the enemy. He wants you to feel like what you have is all that you can really get. What you have is the best. Like there's nothing out there that's better. So you might as well just stay where you're at. God, he doesn't have anything better for you. So you might as well just stay where you at. Like, that's what he wants you to think. And that is a lie from the pits of the darkest hole. He wants you to feel like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, and that God does not have plans to prosper you and to give you better. When you refuse to continue living in a mindset of lack and scarcity, and you start walking in abundance, with an abundance mindset, with a mindset of like, I know that there is so much more that life has to offer. There is so much more that God has in store for me. When you start looking at life in that way, things become so much clearer to you, and life just becomes so much more beautiful. Like, you look at the smallest things and you just say like, God, I thank you so much. Like, I thank you, because you know that this small thing that you see in this very moment, that there's so much more to life. Like, this is just the tip of the iceberg. God hasn't even really shown you what he can really do for you. And when we're in those dark places, in those dark times, it's hard to see that, because you're in the darkness. It's hard for you to really see the light, especially when nobody around you is really pushing you towards the light, because they don't see the light themselves. So that's why it's really important for you to be careful of who you surround yourself with, and be careful of who you're giving your energy to and giving your time to, because that is detrimental to your growth as well. Like, who you surround yourself with, who you allow to occupy your space and your time, can really change the trajectory of where your life is headed. When it comes to just feeling isolated and feeling like you're alone, it's always best to reach out to someone that you know and that you love and that you trust. And before you do that, you want to give it to God. You want to go to God. You want to ask God for guidance and for help, for him to just lift your spirits, lift you up out of that darkness, lift you up out of that sadness, that depression, that heartache, that pain. He will lift you out of that. He's done it for me. He has lifted me out of the deepest, darkest hole that you can imagine. And I wouldn't even really say, like, on the outside looking in, it would look like I was okay. It would look like I was fine, but honestly, like, mentally and emotionally, I felt like a bum. I felt like a bum. Subconsciously, I knew in my heart that the life that I was living, it was not, I just knew it wasn't right. I knew that it had to be more to life than just being in a toxic, unhealthy relationship and just having kids out of wedlock, being mistreated, and just not loving yourself, not caring. And I don't even want to say I didn't care, but I cared more about the relationship than I did myself, than I did my health, than I did my well-being. And honestly, I was just in a really dark place. And I just thank God, because he was the one that lifted me out of that. His grace is what lifted me out of that, because so many things that went wrong could have gone even more wrong. So many times that I felt like things were at an all-time low, they could have been a lot lower. But God, he gave me enough grace to lift me out of those moments and to lift me out of that pit. Like, I was literally going through it. I was going through it, and I felt so alone. I felt like nobody could relate to the heartache and the pain. I felt like I felt weak. I felt like I wasn't strong. I felt like, I could never get over this person. Like, I literally felt like I would never get over them. And that is a lie from the enemy, because not only can you get over them, but you can do better. You will get over them, and you can do so much better, and your life will just start to take off in a way that you could have never imagined, because you were in such a dark place that you didn't see the light. When you're in it, it's hard to see the future you, how much better of a person you will be without this person. So In moments of isolation, you have to ask God for guidance, for strength to lift you out of that darkness. This was just something that was on my spirit, and I feel like we all have moments of where we feel isolated and where we feel like nobody understands what we're going through. And in those moments where you honestly feel like, even if you do talk to someone that you love and that you trust, and you feel like you talking to them won't make the situation any better and it won't lighten your load, that is a prime example of why you should go to God first, why you should talk to Him before you talk to anyone. Because He's going to give you that divine guidance, divine alignment, and He's going to give you that divine redirection, and He's going to show you that there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel, but you just have to believe it yourself. And like I said, it starts up here. Once He gets here, that's it. That's it. And it's a spiraling effect, and it just goes downhill. It might take years for you to come out of that darkness, so that's why it's best to remain in God's presence. One small mistake or one small little backpedal, whether that's you going back to your ex, or whether that's you picking up that beer when you just made a year clean and sober, but you picking up a beer because you've been stressed out, or you picking up that cigarette, or you picking up that weed, or whatever your vice is. All it takes is that one slip up for Satan to completely throw you off course. You have to realize, once you backpedal and go backwards, you're gonna have to start all over again. Do you really want to continue putting yourself through that? Reset and start fresh. And don't get me wrong, reset as many times as you have to. But if you can avoid having to reset and start all over again, pick yourself up out of that darkness. Just try your best to just remain steadfast. Do you want to keep restarting and resetting when you really don't have to? And granted, some things are inevitable. Some things are just going to happen. That's just life. If it's in your control to not have to just go backwards, why would you want to put yourself through that? Why would you want to continue putting yourself through unnecessary drama, through unnecessary pain? Why would you want to do that to yourself? It's really something that you should take into account, because these are things that the enemy does to throw us off track, so that way we're not walking in our purpose. And another thing, whenever you're going through certain things like, addiction, anxiety, mental illness, depression, whatever your stronghold is, these are spiritual warfares that the enemy uses to keep us out of alignment and to keep us from walking in our purpose, because he knows that we have a light within us that can change lives. This is something that I heard from Tony Gaskins, and I just love the way that he put it, how the enemy will try to keep us in these strongholds just so that way we're not walking in our purpose, because he knows that once we're walking in our purpose, we're changing lives. We're changing the trajectory of our family. We're breaking cycles. We're breaking these generational strongholds that have been going on for years and years and decades and decades and decades. We're breaking these things. And the enemy knows that. So for anyone that's going through these things or that struggles with these things, you may have a light inside of you that you need to tap into. And the only way that you can tap into that is if you tap into God, and he will reveal your purpose, and he will strengthen you and guide you and build you up to walk in alignment with that purpose. You cannot do it on your own. You can't. You need his supernatural power in order to do it. If you're that person, and if you feel that this is hitting you in your spirit, this is a time where you need to start tapping into your purpose and really just diving into what you feel like God is trying to tell you, what you feel like he's trying to show you. These things that you've been going through you can turn them into your testimony. You can turn them into your story, and you can use it to help others. We go through these things in order to help others along the way, either to prevent them from going through the same things or to help guide them while they're going through these things. It's a reason, but you just have to tap into that reason. What is your reason? What is your why? Stop allowing the enemy to keep you in isolation and make you feel like you're the only one going through things, like you're the only one struggling, like you're the only one having these battles that you're going through. You're not alone. You're not the only one. And if we really could take a look into other people's lives, we would see that people are either going through the same things we're going through or worse. So count your blessings. Stop allowing the enemy to play tricks with your mind, to just play games with you and to manipulate you into thinking that you're the only one going through stuff. You're not. You're not. He wants to keep you in isolation. It's all a spiritual warfare. If you look beyond the surface, and if you're tapped in to your spirituality, you will see these are spiritual warfares that we're all going through. And we need God. We need his divine power. Just waking up in the morning sometimes is hard because you got to get the kids ready for school. You got to go to work. You got to do this. You got to pay this. You got to. And just knowing that within itself is like, it's a lie. Like, it is a lot. And if you're not walking with God, these things will literally like drive you insane. And know the difference between when the enemy is trying to keep you in isolation and when it's God keeping you in isolation. And when you're tapped into your spirituality and when you are leaning on God for direction, you will know the difference. Like I said, you're not alone. You're not alone. We all go through stuff. We all have our battles. We're all going through spiritual warfare. And you just got to rely on God to give us direction. And once you realize that you're not going through anything, you're growing through that thing. Once you realize that, it'll become easier for you to process things and for you to get through hardships, because you know that once you come out of that on top, it's just another testimony. It's just another testimony. So I thank you guys for watching this video. Just look at the bright side of things, and I hope that you guys have an amazing day, week, month, and I will see you guys on the next video.